Hey everyone, welcome to this video for video feedback. And yeah, you can also join. So when you're part of the Patreon, you can also send me your work. See the description under this video on how to do that. So let's start with this cool drawing from Paola. So he made this Christmas tree. Really like that we have this line of action here. And then this tree, I maybe would do something here with this tree, something like this. Um, and let me show that in a bit. So it's really cool that you first made this front view um, to show the how would you say that the front view reference of the design of the character. And I'm also doing that when I'm not really sure about the yeah, when I figure out the construction of the character, etc. So here, let's go and look at this one. So then we have this head here. So, and then here this cheek here, then this nose, then here this mouth. So I always like to start with the shape. Sometimes I start with the body, but now I'm also adding here these details. So don't want to let him look angry, but that he's really doing his effort or something. So maybe something like this eyebrow up and this one down. I always like when there's some yeah, symmetry or not asymmetry in it. So the opposite. So here we have this mouth. So for example, if we have these eyes, that you have this one down and then here. So that is this, you have this symmetry there, instead of doing both like this. I think it's just interesting to make that other side a little bit different. So I want to push this pose more. So I really like this arm. What I also would suggest is have this foreshortening effect. For shortening effect. So that means that you have this tube looks in depth. You can even push it even more when this side is bigger than that side, instead of doing this. So I mean that with a microphone. So this ball is like this here. Then we have something like this here, and then we draw the hand on top of it, like this. So see how rough I sketch. So trying to figure everything out. And then the arm, let's push this arm more up. So here, I want to use simple shapes and lines. So like this here, so this hand, using these shapes here for this hand. For the hand, I often use something like this. So yeah, one the basic shapes and then dividing it, that field. Check out the hand tutorials more in depth about it. And what I also do with these t-shirts is when you have something like this, I really use these types of lines to show the depth of the character. Now we're going to push this body, so like this here. Maybe we can even do something with pose. It's cool. If this is a Christmas tree, we could add some presents. So maybe there's this present here, and maybe he's standing with his feet on this present. Maybe if it's Christmas, instead of bunnies, maybe you can use something like a reindeer or something like this to make it more Christmassy. So try to think about that we can, maybe this one is pushed down or something. Also here for this pose, I'm really throwing a lot of stuff here. But here using these lines for some perspective. And I'm just throwing these things down. You don't have to know them and understand them all now, but maybe later it will click. But I often like to use some perspective to give some depth here. So we have this here, then we have this hair, and this ear, and then this head, this angle. So like this. Then we can, oh, I want to show it a red line there, this head. So what you did with the sombrero, you have this shape, but I think it's more interesting to have this more. So this is a bit too straight. This creates a bit more depth in it. So I want to get more depth in it. So maybe I'm changing this angle a little bit like this here. Yeah, I think that works better. I'm also always searching, right, for the coolest angles. And so something like here. So I'm also like to draw through my shapes. So draw through. And let's make this also black here. So what I mean with that is, for example, if we are drawing this sombrero like this here, oh, the sombrero here. Like this here. And did you see these lines? In the final drawing, you won't see these lines here, but it helps if you drew shapes. It helps to match things up, right? This. So yeah, suppose like this. We can push it even more, but I think for now it's fine. So here for this tree, so here this perspective. So like this here, I can use also that here for this thing here. So we have this box. Really think about how these shapes go around. So think of when you're adding textures and stuff. Yeah, and I call it a wrap around shapes. So like this, and then we can do this tree like this here. So first I start with a shape like this here. Then I'm adding here these shapes. And maybe it's a little bit too high, maybe for now. Yeah, let's make it smaller. So here, and then we have this top here. I do like that this arm is has this angle. And then maybe look at the kid or the feeling. That's cool. We like that flow in it. It's always a mixture about finding the good gesture flow, and make things look solid. Especially when something like that star is it's hard, it's plastic or it's metal or something. So then you can start. So I've drawn these shapes here. You can draw a tree on so many different ways. You can also do something like that you have a little bit like this here. You see a little bit of that inside here, so that you get that depth here and here. So, and also think about how these shapes are wrapping around. Maybe one thing is also about these things is the distance. The distance is maybe make that more, do this one close to each other like this. And then we have this one as far out of each other. Yeah, I think this is already solved like this. Maybe add a small one here or something. Maybe we can even add a bigger one here. So try to find a nice random composition. But yeah, awesome, awesome work. Keep it up. So let's go to Stephen. Make this lighter. So really cool composition. Really love it. Think this is really awesome. I personally, this is the head. Maybe we could just make this even bigger like this here. You have all this space here. I would do something like this maybe here. Maybe, yeah, I did like that arc of this head like this here. And maybe here we have to, you can still show that claw here and this feet. So I think you get this really cool perspective. I think you can really push this. You can still add that wing here, like this here. Then just show a bit like this here, or maybe try to, but then, yeah, I really like that you get these kinds of arrows, but I think you can really push this part. So I think that's cool. And to be honest, I really like what you're doing here. So that you have these characters. Yeah, this perspective is also really cool. Awesome work, man. So you have this character here. She has the main. Maybe have a little bit of angle there in that leg. We can even push this even a bit more backwards, and then maybe here. Stress like this here. So this is cool. Then maybe you can even use a little bit more depth here in these antlers like this here, maybe then a little bit more downwards. He's really looking through his eyebrows or something. Really like the pose with his wide stand. Like this teddy bear. Maybe he's holding his staff like this. Try out different things or something. Try to play around with different compositions. Let's see. This one here. Maybe here, this angle. Maybe you can use this bunny with this angle here with the sword. Like this here. So it does help with this feeling or something. Also here, this stick also maybe points a little bit towards him there. Yeah, also here, these horns also point a little bit towards that character, but you're already doing fine here. So I only think here, this character, they are all behind that shield, and he's not. So maybe I would even, if you really want to have that cat there, I would maybe, and I do see what everyone's doing. Don't see what this cat's doing. Maybe you can make this cat like he's jumping or something. he's the melee character or something, the rogue. So something like this here. So that you have this. Yeah, this is this action. Maybe you can even find this characters coming behind this here. So maybe change this pose. It's jumping behind them. He's jumping over the shield towards the stunned dragon or something. Try to think of that story, how they all work together and find each other. It's really cool. I also like that we have this tail here. Can maybe even push this tail. There's maybe a little bit overlap here, something like this here. Maybe there's even a thing here, something like that. Maybe we can even make it bigger. Push it. So something like this. And then here we have all these things. These are also really cool. Maybe there are some coins flying. Maybe also his feet is also a little bit going out of that gold, but it's really cool. Maybe you can use with lightning, this light on the shield as well. Some light here towards all these things. I think that, but also with this, right? So you have this light here. Oh, you also have this here that you have to use this light here on these edges, and maybe even on this edge here as well. And we have this color from the shield, right? So maybe you can play around a little bit with that. Maybe you can even put a bit of shadow here on these characters from this parts, right? Maybe here adding a bit of shadow for the dramatic effect or something. I think you can add a little bit more shadow. But yeah, awesome work, Stephen. Really dig this. It's really cool that you make these epic kind of things. It works really well. I also liked what you did with the perspective in the background, that you have this here, that you use that to direct the action to the point you want people look at. The POV point of, oh no, the point of interest. So yeah, but sweet, awesome. Let's move on to Jesse. So made this cool character from last lesson. You did a great job with the pose. Really cool to see that you that you did that. So here we have this line. So here can have this going here. So yeah, I'm really digging what you did here. So think about, yeah, maybe one thing I would say is here you have this, here these lines. It feels a little, and I think you have a really nice flowing style, but here this feels a little bit flat. So how can we improve that? So if you have, for example, the neck, this neck is this shape, like this. It's basically a cylinder, and things wrap around. So here we have this blues like this here. You can use this S shape better, more here, and also this shape here. This is C shape. It goes around. Also here, this part here, this goes around. So really think about that 3D in your drawings. Also here, really think about how are these shapes wrapping up. So here. Let's see, push his arm a little bit here. So try to find these nice composition lines. So for example, here, this arm, you have this nice flowing line here. And of course, we can push this finger a little bit outside. I think that's cool. It also especially works really well for feminine characters. Then you have this arm here. It's more the complex side. So this is the simple side. This is then the complex side where you can add a bit more details, overlapping lines, etc. So yeah. So really think about those shapes. For example, we have a cylinder and a box. Like this. And a sphere or ball. You can make these shapes, you can draw basically anything. And it also helps out that how's clothing wrapping around and etc. So, and you really want to show that. It gives a lot of depth. And also watch out for these lines here, with the neck and the hair. It's called tangents. What I would do is, for example, if we have here this head shape, and this neck, I would draw the hair. Here's the ear. And yeah, if this is the hair, I would draw the hair like this, that there's some space between, or that you use overlap. That's like this over that line, and that you show that this line is loose. But I think for this hair, you can do something like this, and then maybe push this earring a little bit towards that, but that you have some that you use this, that you avoid the tangents. Also here, this hairs, maybe here, this line is C-shape, but I think it's get more interested if we use this S-shape here. Maybe here you're using a shape here, very good. And then here, draw through your shapes. It's also really important. And also here, so I really want you to think about construction. And shoes are really hard, so maybe you can practice drawing shoes first, like maybe almost like a box. Really think about those 3D shapes. You want to make that shoe feel solid, but also construction. So, for example, if I'm drawing feet out of my head now, so here we have this ball, and this shape like this here, and shape here, and then this shape here. Yeah, I'm really thinking in these shapes like this here, this construction. You can also first draw this and then draw the shoe on top of it. It's a lot of work, but it also helps you with construction. So this shoe is on top. I would personally first look at a picture of a shoe. So, and then draw on top of it. Then you get this solid look. Think about construction. And maybe here we can also use something like this for this dress, something like this. So you get this more interesting shapes, more contrast. So when I'm drawing, I often use, so here, maybe here, for example, with this arm, there's also this flow inside of these things. That's also really important. And we use construction there to make things believable. Yeah, awesome work. Also here, you have this leg, feels a bit like this here. So it's really symmetry. That's what I would do for this legs. Maybe make one. Here we have this knee, S shape. And then here it is. So here we have this S shape. Here's an I, and here's the C shape. It's a little bit of an S, but let's see a bit. So I'm using these types of lines. So I really try to get that and get that contrast between those lines. And of course, we have this difficult feet because it's rotated. So maybe something like this. But maybe look at photos or something. It can be hard, but what I want to say is that you want to use those contrast shapes. But yeah, great work, Jesse. So let's go to Kiki. So let's make this this bigger. Let's push this here. Let's make this lighter. So really cool that you use my drawings to practice it. So here. And then here we have this head, shape here. Then here this mouth, this beak. And then here. Like this here. But really think about this construction. I think you can, maybe I'm going a little bit too fast, but really think about yeah, using those construction shapes. Really think about these underlying shapes below it. Try to look at my drawings or at some, especially classic cartoons are really good. That you really look at those shapes. So here you have this. Push this a little bit. So like this. So it's a little bit more pushed, a little bit more. So what I usually do is then you have the line of action, and then you have these shapes like here. Then you combine those shapes because this is flow and energy. This is construction. Those two help strengthen each other because without construction, something looks a little bit weak, and without flows, things look stiff. Here, no construction. Feels weak. And no flow or gesture or energy feels stiff. So, and you get this flow by using line of action, things like that. For example, here with this character, I really feel this. You use these shapes then, like this here. But these cartoon characters are often just circles, but sometimes you can also use cubes and other things. This hand. So really focus on using these shapes, what I showed earlier, those circles, spheres, cylinders, cubes. Also here, when you have this head, really think about how are these eyes on top of this head, how are they wrapped around that head. So here. So yeah, think about how these shapes, how things are on the surface. Maybe get a toy, study drawing toys. Maybe you have some really simple designer toy with those really clear round shapes or something, and try to analyze it. Try to draw it from different angles. Here, then we have this this pig. So here, like this here. Here, and yeah, the construction shapes. But also look at my tutorials. I really try to focus a lot about construction. When I'm doodling a character, maybe you see sometimes here I skip some parts, but that's because I do it so much. And when you use too much of these things get stiff. But especially when you're beginning, it's really important to use those shapes. And maybe you draw a little bit stiff because of that then, but that really helps you understand those constructions. It's training for, and later you can skip that part. But really think about that construction. So here, beautiful drawing from Anthony. That's awesome work, man. So here we have this character, this strong line of action. I really like this. Maybe you can use this. Also here, these S shapes. Here, yeah, maybe, I think you did a wonderful job. You can find some things to get a little bit more of the flow in it. Here, this shape also feels a little bit, I think it's beautiful, but maybe a little bit boring. So maybe you can try to find some more interesting shapes because it's clothing, right? It's not that hard or stiff or something. So maybe something like this here. These legs are also really, maybe if you have one leg, maybe it is the same angle. Maybe if you push angle like this here, then you get this. We can even make this one a little bit more outside. So you have this more stronger pose or something. And I also would add a little bit more negative space. So maybe if you have this arm here, maybe you can push this for shortening here. So here, difficult pose, man. I think you did a really great job here. And make it like this here. So you have this, so it's a little bit more clear. I will show it in a bit. You also hear this part here. So maybe you can have this stick, maybe like this. I think it would be stronger if you have this angle. So here. And also so here, these angles. I would try to add some angles in it and really try to find some things to make the thing flow, especially here, maybe here, even these feathers. Try to let them follow that line of action. So you get those flowing things. But main part is, for example, for the silhouette. So maybe if you make this black really quickly. So here, I want to have clear silhouette. So it's easier to tell what's going on. It's really great way. Some, especially painters, at least so far I know, sometimes use these kinds of things to start with. So here, and then you can decide which one you find more stronger. Here. So I often check my characters if they're readable, and if you can, yeah, understand them better. So then this is negative space, and this is positive space. Positive space, negative space. And try to find a good balance between those things. And I think your construction looks very strong. So I really will try to make these shapes feel connect. Same with the arm. You have this hand. If you think of this hand as a box, you see this side here, and then that you can make it feel like it's connected to this side here. So maybe show overlapping lines, for example. You can do, of course, like this here, these two shapes with close line, but you can also do it here if you have these two shapes. You leave a little bit of a gap here. So then they feel more connected instead of this, right? That you get a flow into that shape. But yeah, really awesome work. Let's make this smaller. So cool drawing from Blue perspective. Cool. You did a great job. So let's see, how can we make this stronger and more. I would try to make it a bit more, add more perspective in it. So here we have this character, this most important one. So what I usually do then, to pick that most interesting character, I often use this, so I divide this in 9 parts, and then I pick one of these intersection points, make a point of interest. So this one is closest to here. So I think I want to have that pigeon there. And then I want to have perspective, something maybe here. Maybe here's the window. Or maybe I want to have the window here and have the character here, the pigeon. So like this. Then maybe here the Christmas tree is perfect. But then here's maybe the wall already. And then here's then the bookcase or something. And then here we have the ground, all the presents, stuff like here. We can use this perspective as well, like this. And then you can also use this table here. And here this couch is maybe here, maybe just the floor a little bit lower. So something like this. And this is how I scribble my ideas first. Sometimes I make a couple of these to find out the best perspective. And yeah, once I made the doodle, I try to figure out the perspective points, like here. Then we have the horizon line, something going here. And then that other perspective point, maybe something like this, maybe here. So, and then you can figure out the perspective. So then we have the horizon line, perspective 1 point, perspective point 1, perspective point 2. And then, yeah, make that composition. I would use this to build up the composition. But this is usually how I start and doodle. And I think you can be really clean and technical, but try to be a little bit, try to really make doodles like this. And it can be ugly, just about putting the ideas first and what you want to tell. I think this creates just a little bit more of an interesting story and perspective. And maybe you can draw that little mouse going here in the corner, peeking or something, or maybe here behind the Christmas tree present or something. Or maybe, yeah, I would put it somewhere in the corner. Maybe if there's a present here, I would maybe pick that mouse here and peek behind the present or something. So you get this nice triangle composition. And play around with that. Look at illustration and movies. Study those compositions to also figure out what you like. So here we have this cat. You also sent me the photo of that cat. So here we have this one, and you send me some reference of the cat to study. So I have it on my other screen, but here we have this bathtub. So I would use something like an arc like this here. And then I would maybe add a little bit more shape here for his hand. So like this here. Then it has this clothing, so that's fine. Maybe here. And then I think about what kind of construction do I want to give this cat here. So use these balls. So here to figure out, maybe I would add this hand here for in my head, maybe something like this. Then here this head, a little bit more upwards. Really this. Really try to push it. So it's important when you're using reference. It's important that you try to push it here. So like this here. So you don't need to make a copy. You want to make it look more interesting or something. And then here you have this hair. But yeah, I would suggest for you really think about the construction of the character construction. They also told the others to using cylinders, cubes, and spheres like that, right? That you use those kinds of things to draw your characters. So yeah, awesome, awesome work. So yeah, that was it. So thanks everyone for sending me your work. And so if you join my Patreon, you can also get feedback like this. Yeah, so check out my page on how to do that. And if you want to send work for next week, see the information under the Patreon post about how to send in your work for also a review. So thanks everyone. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas and have a great New Year. And I see you then in next year. Thanks everyone. Have a great days. Bye bye.